Class is now in session. This is Weather U with Gabrielle Espinosa.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Weather U. This week we're going to talk about when those temperatures, they get cold and we can see frost start to form. So behind me we're looking at some grass and the dew on that grass as well. I know it's kind of hard to see, but there are little droplets on the grass indicating dew that has already formed. Now we're looking at temperatures right now, 45 degrees here to the left side of the screen. Now as that starts to drop down to 40 and even down close to that freezing mark. Now, we don't have to get freezing for frost to form. When we're close to that freezing mark, those dew droplets can begin to freeze and we can start to see frost in those rural areas. So here we're out in a grassy field, kind of rural. So when we hit that 35-degree mark, those dew droplets froze and we're looking at frost starting to form. Now, when temperatures get close to that freezing mark, that's when we start to talk about those freeze warnings. So a freeze warning, usually in a lighter blue color, gets issued by the National Weather Service. They issue this only one time a year. That's going to be for the first freeze of the winter when temperatures drop down to between 32 and 29 degrees for any amount of time. Now, we do get a hard freeze warning as well. That's going to be when temperatures drop down below 28 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's usually indicated by this darker blue color, and this is only issued when those temperatures drop below 28 for 4 or more hours. So it's quite a stretch of time. And so when we get that hard freeze warning, or even when we get that first freeze warning, you need to start thinking about protecting the 4 Ps. Those include people, plants, pets, and those pipes. That's going to be for the hard freeze warning, of course, but protecting people, that can be done even when temperatures aren't near that freezing mark. Just when it starts to get cold, be sure to check on those who can't help themselves, the elderly who might need a little bit more help. Make sure they have blankets or know that the temperatures are going to be that cold. And if you have a space heater, make sure to plug it directly into a wall outlet. Plugging it into an extension cord could be potentially hazardous and spark a fire. Now, when we're talking about protecting pets, pets can't help themselves and they're going to need our help. So as those temperatures start to fall, it's going to become dangerous for some breeds to be outside for too long. So once we hit that 40-degree mark, it's becoming too cold for small and sensitive breeds. So you need to think about bringing those breeds inside when it gets to the 40-degree mark. Now, when we drop just 8 more degrees down to the freezing mark, that's going to be too cold for almost all breeds. And then down to 25, it's going to be dangerous to leave any pet outside for too long a time. And then down to 20 degrees, that's becoming potentially life-threatening. So you need to think about those outside pets and animals, what to do when it is getting down to that freezing mark and it is getting a little bit too cold for them. Now, the same thing with plants. They need our help too. They can't help themselves. So protecting plants, that's going to be much of the same as protecting those pets. We're going to need to start protecting them when temperatures drop down to near that freezing mark. So when we're above 35, that frost hasn't formed yet, but then at 35, that frost is going to start to form, and that's when we're going to start to need to protect those outside plants. So the temperature falls to near 32 degrees. You're going to want to bring in those potted plants because plants that are in the ground have the ground to kind of keep them warmer because the ground doesn't cool as quickly as the air temperatures. But a potted plant, it stands alone and the air around it is kind of keeping its temperature. So as that temperature starts to fall, you're going to need to think about bringing those inside. Now, when we fall down between 32 and 25, you'll need to protect new or tender plants by wrapping them to keep them warm. And then below 25, pretty much all plants are going to need to be wrapped or covered. That includes trees, bushes, and other outside plants as well. Now, when we're talking about protecting pipes, the last P on our list, this is going to be for more of those raised homes, and when those temperatures start to get too cold, we're going to have to open those kitchen cabinets and the bathroom cabinet doors. That helps the air flow around the pipes and keep them just a little bit warmer so that they don't begin to freeze. Then you're also going to want to let the cold and the warm water drip. Now again, this is just for those homes that are raised in our area. Make sure you keep the cold and warm water dripping at the same time. And if you're talking about those outside pipes, everybody's got the hose pipe outside to water the plants. You're going to want to drain the water from those outside hose pipes so that they don't freeze as well. And then the last one here is going to be install pipe protective equipment. That means putting a cap over a spigot on the side of a house just to make sure that that doesn't freeze as well. Now those are all the tips and tricks I've got to keep those people, plants, pets, and pipes protected. So class is dismissed.